Hi all. We have speak on build a private developers code using TripleO by Rain. Let's welcome.
Um, Thank you. On the schedule, it says RDO Manager. The project has since changed names. It's actually TripleO now. So in case there's any confusion, if you're here for RDO Manager, we can talk about that too. But we're going to say TripleO. In the beginning, I put this up, and it's at the bottom of every one of my slides because I would love, 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 love if you would bust out your phones, tablets. If you really want to get creative with your laptops, that'd be great. Take pictures. If you would like to take a picture now, I'm ready. Okay. And tweet your questions, your comments, your snarky remarks. I will answer every single one of them. Just in case we run out of time today for questions, you can find me on there. Hey, he's in the front row. So the agenda for today is what is OpenStack. That is a very brave agenda item for a 30-minute talk. I was talking to someone just yesterday. He takes about half a day to train his people on what is OpenStack. It's a huge, don't say that. Flying spaghetti monster project. It's pretty messy. So we'll do the 30-second version. We're going to talk about what RDO. It's obviously Rain's dynamic OpenStack because I'm Rain. Trystack, Packstack, and TripleO. And then we're going to go into my passion, which is TripleO QuickStart, or RDO Manager QuickStart, if you're still stuck on that first slide. But first, would you like to take a picture? No? Okay, we'll go on. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Leander. I am a developer evangelist with RDO. Specifically the TripleO project within RDO. I am a very young OpenStack ATC, active technical contributor, which means that I've done docs and testing, but I am a Python developer, and I'm ramping up quickly, I hope. I'm at Rain's Dance most places. If you are on Freenode, look for me as Leanderthal on RDO and TripleO channels. And yes, that is my email, direct. If you have any questions, you email me. Shit. Okay, so what is OpenStack? This is the marketing version. This is the version on the website. This is the architectural overview. It looks really pretty and simple. We've got the compute project, the networking project. That storage block over there is so fake because it's actually 3 sub-projects and then other projects. You've got your standard hardware. This is a really nice way to think about OpenStack because it's simple and they're pretty colors. And then you have an OpenStack dashboard and all your apps, your Python apps sit on top of it and run, and it's awesome. The reality is that it's much, much, much scarier. This isn't even everything. This is only about 7 projects. This is one of the storage projects, Swift. This is also, no, that's Glance. This is the compute node. There's another storage cube. TripleO isn't on here yet because it's an installer. It's a deployment mechanism. It's a maintenance mechanism. So even though this says the realistic version, that is a lie. It's just to give you an idea of how complicated OpenStack is. The reality is that OpenStack is an umbrella of many, 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 many sub-projects that go into making an open source project for private and public clouds. So if you want your own cloud, you might go to OpenStack because it's free, and then you could build one and put your apps on it. But it's best to think of, instead of the messy or even the marketing version, think of an umbrella. So what is RDO? What does RDO stand for? Actually, it's one of those names, because in Linux we like to be hilarious and not actually define our acronyms sometimes. Like the GNU project also is a recursive GNU, and da-da-da-da-da. RDO actually doesn't stand for anything. It could stand for Red Hat a little bit, it could stand for Rain a little bit, it could stand for Rich, or any of our other ATC contributors who start with R, or want their names to start with R. But the important part for you is that it is exactly the same as OpenStack. And the only thing we do is we take all of those binaries and packages, and we package them as RPMs. So you can use them on RHEL, you can use them on CentOS, you can use them on Scientific Linux. Anything that uses an RPM package, you can use. It's exactly the same. So there are 3 ways to get started within RDO, and you do not have to have Linux installed as one of them. We've got Trystack, Packstack, and TripleO. Oh my. So let's say you do not want to commit to Linux, you do not want to think, you just want to play with the cloud, you just want to put your app on a cloud and test it and play, and what is this cloud thing, et cetera, go with Trystack. It requires no installation. It is a project that we've got a bunch of hardware from several companies and a bunch of employees from several companies, and they all came together and decided, you know what, we want to make it that easy for you to try. Hence the brilliant name, Trystack. Then we've got Packstack, and Packstack is if you are feeling a little bit more brainy, a little bit more ballsy, you have a system you want to install on, you've got RHEL or CentOS or Fedora or Scientific Linux or anything that uses an RPM package. It's 4 lines of code in Bash, and you've got your own proof of concept. And this is the most important difference between Packstack and TripleO, is that Packstack is meant to be a proof of concept, quick, nasty, little cloud, 4 lines, it's up. TripleO is if you want your own system in production. Say you want to rent out clouds to people. Say you want to have a cloud that you do your testing on and then you actually push it in production. That's what TripleO is for. It's high availability. So there's redundancy. There's all the things that you would probably want in a production cloud are available in TripleO. I won't say that it does anything you want, because I'm not in sales or marketing, but it does a lot. And this goes back to what I am in. I'm a developer evangelist. And yes, this is a bit of a recruitment talk. We would love to have every single one of you testing these and telling us what you like about them, what you want in them, what you don't like about them, and helping us fix it. So then Trystack, which is the browser, you can run these 2 lines of code if you want to, but you could actually just go to Trystack.org. And really what we do is, as of today, we run the Trystack users through a Facebook group. I know. Facebook, poor Facebook. This is just how we started the project. It's a way to very easily ban someone who's spamming or abusing. We had someone torrenting Justin Bieber, nothing against the Biebs, but maybe not the best use of that resource. And we would like a bunch of people to be able to use it torrenting all of the Beebs albums, not helpful for everyone else. So if you want Trystack, go to Trystackorg, check it out. Let me know what you think. I'm an administrator on the Facebook page. So if I have a bunch of Facebook requests today, I'll be the one approving them. Packstack, as I said, it's 4 lines of code. There's a little bit of prerequisites for your system. As I said, rel, CentOS, blah, blah, blah. Your system that you are building it on needs to have at least 16 gig of RAM, preferably 32. This is a recent requirement. It used to be 16 was plenty, but then the latest version of OpenStack came out, and it's called Mitaka. It was just released 2 weeks ago, and it requires a lot more space. We are working on that. We are working with Docker, maybe containers, with Cola, trying to figure out how to make that footprint a lot smaller, but for now, 16, preferably 32. And all this does, this last line, Packstack all-in-one, is it generates an answers file that then is referenced to do the installation. So the all-in-one does the defaults. So if you want, you can do Packstack --gen -answers equals answers.txt, and it will create that file for you, and you can go in and edit and make it the smallest possible footprint that you want. And it also has a lot of comments in there, so you can see exactly, okay, so what is Cinder, and why would I want Cinder, and by the way, that's a storage type of storage. The other 3 are just installing the Mitaka version of the repository. Then you update your system and any packages on that repository. Then you actually install OpenStack -Packstack. And then the final command is the actual Packstack installation. So TripleO QuickStart. TripleO used to be, and still is, actually, you could go straight upstream to the TripleO documentation, and it's 12 pages of bash commands. And I don't know about you, but my fingers are not that smart. I type, and there are always typos, and that is very frustrating over the course of 12 pages. You can take that documentation, specify it to your operating system, and whether or not you want to go completely virtual or a combination of hardware. But still, 12 pages of documentation. I might be lying, it might be 7 today. Bleeding edge. So what we're doing right now is creating a quick start that does most of that crap for you. And that way you only have these 4 lines of code. And I'll admit that that curl address, that's a copy paste. I would totally mistype if I did not copy paste that. But that's the actual quick start script. You can open it up. It's written in Python. It is a series of calls to an Ansible playbook that effectively runs all of those 12 pages of commands. But that way you don't have to mistype, you don't have to think, you just run the script and it does it for you. Yeah. So the vert host is defining your fully qualified domain name of the system you want to create everything on, and then calling the script, and then actually running the script against that system. You could technically run this from like a Raspberry Pi, and then you point it to your system. But the actual system needs to have rel or CentOS. Or do you sense a pattern? something that uses RPMs on it. And then it also needs to be 16 gig, preferably 32 gig. And I'm working on that. And I would love to have you guys work on it with me. This is the boring slide. It's got the most information. It's if you want to find out more. All of this would be a great photographic opportunity as well. Although all of my slides are on SlideShare and Speaker Deck and all that stuff. So on Groningen Rain, English, on Groningen Rain.nl or .nl, I have this entire talk. So it's all written down and all the links are there and everything. As I said, I am on Freenode, Leanderthal on RDO and TripleO, and my email's not on here because you have to remember it, although it's not that hard. And thank you. Haha, 20 minutes with 20 minutes worth of questions. No problem.
So, great talk. You mentioned that it was called RDO, but now it's called TripleO. Why the name change?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. I love that in all the talks, the first line is great talk, because that's good for my ego. But it also kind of triggers the PhD defense response of, thank you for your question, honored colleague. Thank you for your question. Great question. Okay, so I was giving this talk in January, February, and went into more detail about what is OpenStack and then what is TripleO within OpenStack, because we used to call within OpenStack and what is TripleO, because we used to call TripleO within RDO Manager. And because of my talk where I was like, yes, exactly the same as OpenStack, exactly the same, TripleO, and then we renamed it to RDO Manager, and I have no fucking clue why. We went, oh yeah, that isn't smart. Because RDO Manager used to be very, very different from TripleO. It used to have different quirks within it that were inspired from where it came from. But now it's exactly the same as the upstream. That's something that we tried to do at Red Hat, is when it comes from upstream into RDO and then into our internal paid service, to keep it as close to that upstream bleeding edge. And so TripleO is now exactly the same. And between the time of submitting this talk here and coming here today, we had a vote within the community and changed it to TripleO in March. So I really should have been on top of that, but I wasn't. Any other questions for you? And ideally, if the next question could come from down there so we could keep Mustafa earning his keep, that would be awesome.
Thank you. So I'm glad you brought up the 16 gigs requirements, because I also noticed that when I went to the website, and glad you're working on it. So my questions are, what's in OpenStack that has such huge requirements, and what are you guys going to do, and what's realistically expectable?
Yeah. Awesome question. Thank you for your question, esteemed colleague. So part of what is so complicated, or what is within OpenStack, is because of that. Because it keeps growing, the people that founded OpenStack, let me step back a bit. When OpenStack was first made by NASA and Rackspace, they were like, okay, we want to make the cloud usable for any circumstance. And if you think about, that's what the internet was started as. We want to make a resource for any circumstance. And that is... So when that's your goal to have any environment, any use case, anything possible, that is how you get flying spaghetti monster of doom projects and ugliness. Because, for example, one of the baby projects is called Ironic. And this is part of the size issue. Ironic allows you to use physical systems, and it used to be that the original project Nova handled this, but it handled it very ugly, very simply, and there were a lot of bugs with it, and it would often not recognize the system or indicate it as a resource for a different node. And so they took that aspect of Nova and they made it its own project. It's called Ironic. And now it's much bigger. It has all of the database that you could possibly need for every hardware system of 64-bit and 32-bit. It's adding ARM. It's adding, like, it's even adding further opportunities. So, and that's just Ironic. A lot of the projects got bigger and added more lines of code and added more options. And really, it's the options that make it massive. So what you can do with TripleO and Packstack is you simplify it down. You simplify your networking. You simplify that I don't want any storage options, for example. And you just take the bare minimum, and then 16 gig is plenty. What I would like to do is write up a script for that. Okay, you just want the bare minimum, and you only have 8 gigs of space. Here you go. Want to help? Okay, cool. Any other questions? Oh, yes, question from that side. You guys go sit on the edges.
You may not like my question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What do you end up with as far as what capabilities do you end up with at the end of installing the TripleO?
Great question. Because part of the QuickStart script, part of the pages and pages and pages of instructions is you have the initialization of the repos, the updating, the creating 3 virtual systems, which, oh, I did not even go into that. That's why this was only 20 minutes. Okay, so TripleO is 2 clouds. It's a full instance of OpenStack that you use to deploy a full instance of OpenStack or more. So TripleO is OpenStack on OpenStack. Wow, I'm going to be shot for not even going over this. The smaller instance is a minimum cloud. So you have the bare minimum, which is what takes up much less space. And then that is your deployment cloud, which can be anything. Now, when you run the TripleO script, all it is a 2 compute nodes for redundancy and 1 mind blank node for 2 compute nodes and 1 controller. And 1 controller node. So when you've run the TripleO QuickStart script as of today, actually as of yesterday, because yesterday was the actual testing, all it does is do the undercloud. That's about 7 pages of instructions. And then it creates the templates they're called flavors and images. It creates, so you can go in and create those three, but you might not want those three. You might want to just play with administering from your TripleO instance. So the QuickStart as of today only does about 2/3 of what the full instructions do. You end up with your undercloud, it's called. Good thing this isn't being recorded, so that mistake was
Hey,
ephemeral.
so my question is, hello. Yeah. So my question is, how, why would a developer choose to have TripleO as opposed to plain old DevStack directly from OpenStack?
Right. So as of right now, there are a ton of installer options. I am aware of DevStack. There are also installers out there that you don't even have to think about it. You can just say, I want a cloud, and it gives you a cloud and gives you your language of choice pre-installed. And maybe if you're working on a specific application that is open source and available, it'll already pre-install that application, so you can just get up and go. There are tons of options. I highly recommend going and exploring if you are completely new and don't want to work with RPMs or RDO. Go explore that, because DevStack may be better for you. My hope is that you will come play with Packstack and come play with the TripleO, especially the QuickStart script, because that's what I'm working on. But I am very much one of those Kool-Aid drinkers from the open source community, as opposed to the Kool-Aid drinker from the Red Hat community. Although I love my Red Hat. Explore and experiment. There is, for example, there are tons of paid options as well, of just not having to administer your own cloud. You can pay someone else, and then you don't even have to think about it. Maybe your company actually has their own instance of OpenStack, and so you don't have to think about it. But what if you work in Berlin and their instance of OpenStack is in New York City? The lag time may be something that you don't want to think about in connecting over there, and so you have an extra box under your system. You can boot up your own cloud. Yeah. All right, this side of the class, you got to think of something.
Hi, great speech, thank you. So I've just emerged from the dark ages, and I'm not so very knowledgeable about clouds. But at work we have a combination. We use a combination of Xen servers and bare metal machines, and we use different data centers in basically all over the world. And we have a need to very quickly set up a combination of new machines, virtual machines, and bare metal servers. How would OpenStack fit into this scenario? How could it help us to sort of grow on demand?
Right. Thank you for the question, esteemed colleague. OpenStack isn't necessarily going to help with setting up your physical systems. You still have to have an administrator that sets up. But OpenStack then is great for managing that resource if other people want their own cloud. And then the other thing that OpenStack does is recognize new virtual systems. The default before Ironic and Nova's version of Ironic was that all of the systems would be virtual. The idea was that that it would all be virtual. But the reality is that a cloud is just someone else's physical system. And people don't necessarily want to use as a resource a VM on top of a physical system. They just want to go straight to that physical system. So the functionality of OpenStack is it can recognize both your physical systems and your virtual systems to be used as resources. And then the other aspect of TripleO that I really like is that it does resource matching. So if you have a 16 gig system as a resource on your cloud and you want a 16 gig cloud, then TripleO goes, by the way, we have this available, and creates the cloud under with the 16 gig underneath, so that it's a lot more logical than if we divided up like 8 gigs from this system and 2 gigs from that and 2 gigs from that. Is that 8? Yeah. And parsed it together, then it wouldn't run as smoothly. But if we just recognized it and built it, then we don't have to worry about it. And this is part of the size of Mitaka, is that functionality is increasing with every iteration. Every 6 months, by the way, OpenStack has a new version. And that might be really scary for a company, which is why there are so many options of companies that go in and they take the latest version, Mitaka in this case, and then they super test it for enterprise use. And then that is usually what financial systems and health systems are more comfortable using, that paid version that's been super tested. Maybe you should email me. Do you remember the address? Okay. Any other question from this? Oh, look at Mustafa. He's totally anticipating it. He's like, I'm already here.
Sorry. It's not a question, but it's more a little about your answer, which is, I mean, you were right. One of the things is that if your company is really thinking about even trying OpenStack, again, there's a bunch of people who do it really well. And not just because, like, just full disclosure, I work for a company that sells OpenStack as a service. But like, I've worked with OpenStack for about 3 years, and like, if you really want to try it as a company, not as a developer, you can go ahead and do DevStack or Packstack or whatever you want. But as a company, if you're really thinking about it, I would highly, highly encourage to reach out to one of the companies that does it professionally, because the problem with OpenStack is not really setting it up. That's the easy part. Operating it and maintaining it is a major, major, major bear.
I would actually disagree with the setting up part being the easy part, but then agree with the maintenance being a difficult aspect. There are tons of consultants out there that can help you with this and do okay, you have this system and this networking and these resources, and here would be the smoothest transition, and set it up for you and then teach you how to maintain. So yeah, lots of options. Maybe email him too. And we are done. I look forward to the next talk. Thank you very much.